What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your Best Strip 60 RGBWA+UV wash light bar with wireless DMX. They come in two different colors of black and white, but the setup is the exact same. As you can see, it comes with the light itself, a wireless DMX antenna so that the light can communicate with wireless DMX controllers or other wireless DMX lights. We also have a wireless IR remote, two mounting feet with washers and screws so we can place the light on the floor or hang it onto a truss, and it also comes with a power cable to charge the light. Do keep in mind you have to flip this battery switch on the back whenever you're charging your light so you can set the light into charging mode. You'll also want to be sure that the main power switch is flipped off. So after we plug our power cable into an outlet, we can take the female end and plug it into the power in on our light. After that, you'll see the LED on the back of the light turn red, letting us know that the light is charging. And we can even use the power out to daisy chain multiple lights so that they're all charging at once. If your light is completely dead, it'll take up to 6 hours to fully charge, and after that you can use the light to up to 18 hours. So one of the first things we can do is plug in our wireless DMX antenna, so later on we can use a wireless DMX controller. So next we can set up the mounting feet. So to do that, I'm going to take one of the mounting feet, two washers, and a screw knob. I'm going to take one of my washers and feed it through the screw here. Then I'm going to feed the screw through the hole here of my mounting foot, and then I'm going to sandwich it with another washer. Next we're going to take the remaining part of the screw and line it up to this middle hole here on the side of our light, and then screw in the screw knob to lock it in place. Next we'll want to do the same exact thing with the other foot. Now one of the many ways we can use the Best Strip 60 is for wall washing. So you could either use the feet to have the light shining completely up, or you can use the feet to angle your light towards your wall. So you could either place your light completely flush against your wall, or you can place your light a few inches away from your wall and angle it so that the light is hitting your wall just the way you want it. And then from there you can use any of the light modes for your wall washing, which we'll get to in a minute. You can use the same approach for lighting up your DJ facade. So you can take your light and line it up flush to the inside of your DJ facade, and depending on how big your facade is, you can use multiple lights for a much more illuminated effect. On top of using the light on the floor, the mounting feet also allow us to truss mount our light. So to attach the clamps onto the light, you're gonna start by taking out this bolt here. Then you're just gonna line up the hole here of your lighting clamp to the hole here on your foot. Take your bolt and feed it through the bottom of the foot and the top of your clamp, and just screw it back on. Then you'll just want to do the same exact thing with your other clamp. Now before you mount the light onto your truss, you're just going to want to loosen these screws here on your clamps. Then you're going to line the clamps up to open spots on your truss, and then tighten the screws on your clamp to lock the light onto your truss. So now let's go ahead and turn on our light so we can go over many of its features. On the back of the light you'll see the LCD screen, and under the LCD screen you'll see 4 different buttons so we can navigate through the different menus. So we can use the up and down buttons to toggle between each menu. Then we can press enter to open up the settings of that menu. Then you can use the menu button to go back a page. So now let's go through all of these different options here. Starting with the DMX 512 mode, this will allow you to set the DMX address of your light, which comes in handy when you're using master slave mode or a wireless DMX controller. Shows allow you to go through all of the available auto modes, including auto color, auto fade, auto sudden, or auto strobe. To select the mode, you'll use the up and down buttons. Once you've found a mode you want to use, you can press enter, and then from there you can change the speed of that mode using the up and down buttons again, and then press enter to set the speed. There's also a sound show that allows you to use any of the 4 available sound modes. So if I select sound mode 1, you'll see that the light starts to change color as it picks up sound. Sound mode 2 will have the light strobe in between colors as it picks up sound. Sound mode 3 will make each color pulse as it starts to pick up sound. And sound mode 4 is a combination of each sound mode as it starts to pick up sound. And what's also really cool is that you can select each mode and use the up and down buttons to set the sensitivity of each sound mode. There's also a color mode, so you can set the light to a static custom color or a static preset color. So for example, I'm going to click on color mode, and then you'll see option 1 for custom color and option 2 for static color. So when you click on custom, you'll see each color is available from red, green, blue, white, yellow, or ultraviolet, and you can set the percentage of how much color you want present. So I can press enter to go through each color, and then I can use the up and down button to adjust the percentage. So you can set the red to be 29%, the green to be 50%, etc. Then you can also select static color and go through all 32 colors. So here you have red, here's green, blue, white, amber, ultraviolet, etc. Then you have the settings option, which allows you to go through many different settings on your light. So for example, you have the DMX channel option, which allows you to set the light either to 6-channel mode or 10-channel mode. Next, you have the option to set the 2.4 gigahertz on and off. Just note that you would only want to have this off if you're using wired connections, otherwise you always want to leave this on. You can also adjust the unit's ability to respond to the wireless IR remote with the infrared setting here. You can also adjust the display backlight, the LCD close time. You can factory restore your light, or go to the manual mode to adjust the brightness of each bulb. You can also set the light to show your battery percentage on the LCD screen, and change the background color of your menu. And lastly, there's a help menu where you can see all types of information about your light. Now, as I mentioned before, you can use the Best-Strip 60 with a wireless DMX controller to control your lights without any cables. To demonstrate, I have my wireless DMX controller here that I'm going to pair to my lights. So first we have to activate wireless DMX mode, which we can do on the back of the lights with the wireless DMX switch. After you do that, you'll see the wireless DMX code light come up on the top of your lights, which we're gonna get back to in just a sec. Next, we'll want to turn on our wireless DMX controller with the power switch. Then we'll want to set the DMX controller to wireless DMX mode with the switch right next to the power switch. After that, we'll see a similar light starting to flash on the back of the controller. This is the controller's wireless DMX code trying to reach out to other DMX devices like the Best-Strip 60s. So to get them all to sync up, we need to set the DMX code to the same color. So I'm going to do that on my controller first, and for today I'm going to set the color to blue. Then we're going to do the same thing on our lights with the button right above the DMX code LED. After that, you'll see the DMX code on both lights start to flicker green, meaning that the lights are in slave mode. Before we do anything though, we're going to want to go to the DMX 512 menu on both lights and set them to the same DMX address so that they both interact with our controller. In this case, we'll use A001. Next, we need to go into the settings of each light and determine if we want the lights in 6-channel mode or 10-channel mode. Using either 6-channel or 10-channel mode is completely dependent on your needs and on how much control you want to have over your lights with your DMX controller. 6-channel mode allows you to control each of the base colors of your light, while 10-channel mode allows you to control the base colors along with the other features of your light. So for today's example, we're going to set each light to 10-channel mode. After that, we'll go to our controller and select scanner 1. And now we can go through each fader of our DMX controller and see what it does to our lights. Starting with fader 1 here, this will act as our master fader for faders 2 through 8. So in this case, we'll want to raise it all the way up. Next to that, we have fader 2, which allows us to control the red LEDs. So if I start to raise that, you'll see the red LEDs start to come through our lights here. And we can control the intensity of our LEDs depending on where we leave the fader. So for example, it's set to the middle here, so they're not as intense. And if I raise them all the way up, you'll see that they become more intense. And if I lower it, they start to become less intense. Moving on, we have fader 3 that allows us to control the green LEDs. Fader 4 allows us to control the blue LEDs. Fader 5 lets us control the white LEDs. We can use fader 6 to control the amber LEDs. And fader 7 allows us to control the ultraviolet LEDs. Now, while we use one of our colors here, we can use fader 8 to control the strobe mode. And these same intensity rules apply here, so the higher you have fader 8 set, the higher intensity the strobe is. Now, fader 9 will control all of the different modes available through your lights. Now, depending on where you leave fader 9, it will correspond with this number here on your DMX controller, and depending on the range you set it at, it will activate that certain mode. So for example, if I set my fader anywhere from 151 to 200, it will activate the color fade mode. We made a cheat sheet for fader 9, which you can see right here. And fader 10 will control the speed for all of these modes, so if I raise that while we're in color fade mode, you'll see that the colors start to fade into each other much faster. Now, in case you didn't want to do this wirelessly, there's a way to set up your DMX controller to your lights with DMX cables. Now, before we set this up, we do have to go into our lights and make sure they're in the same DMX address, and choose whether we want them in 6-channel mode or in 10-channel mode. So we're gonna leave them on the DMX address of A001 and leave them in 10-channel mode. You can also leave the wireless DMX switches off for this type of setup. So to connect the DMX controller to my first light, I'm going to take one DMX cable. I'm going to take one DMX cable and plug it into the DMX out on my controller. Then I'm going to take the other end and plug it into the DMX in on my first light. And to link my first light to the second light, I'll take one more DMX cable, plug the male end into the DMX out on my first light, then plug the other end into the DMX in on my second light. And you can repeat this part of the process for however many lights you want to have set up. Just like in the last setup, we're going to want to make sure that scanner 1 is activated. And to test out if it works, we'll raise the master fader and raise fader 2. And now you should see the red LEDs coming through our lights. Now, if you don't want to use a DMX controller, but you still want to have multiple lights in sync, you can always use the master slave function. So first we want to figure out which light we want to have as our master light, so we'll go with this one here, and we'll activate the wireless DMX mode. Just like with the DMX controller, we want to set up a DMX code for this light, so in this case we'll set it to blue. Next we'll go to our slave light and do the same exact thing by turning on the wireless DMX mode and setting the DMX code to blue. Now, in case they don't sync up right away, we can go to our master light and go to a mode like color mode. And after that, you should see the LEDs on your DMX code start to flash. You'll know which light is which because the master light will be flashing red and the slave light will be flashing green. So while we're in master slave mode, we can go to our master light and pick a static color. And as we set a color for our master light, you'll see that the same color comes up on our slave light. This will also work if we use any of these settings on our wireless remote. So I can use the wireless remote to set the lights in any static color like red, green, blue, white, amber, or ultraviolet, and we can also use any of the custom colors here in this box below. You can also activate any of the built-in modes like auto mode, strobe, fade, or sound mode. We can also use these up and down arrows here to change the speed in which the colors change. We can also use the remote to turn your lights on and off. Now sometimes if you point your wireless remote to your slave light to change color or your mode, it will only affect your slave light, which will throw your lights out of sync. So to fix this, we recommend going into the settings of your slave light, going to the infrared menu, and turn your infrared off so your remote won't affect your slave light. So this way, if we point our remote to our master light to change color or mode, it will affect your master light and every other light in your chain. Now, in case we didn't want to do this wirelessly, we can connect each light through a DMX cable. To do that, I'm going to take the male end of my DMX cable and plug it into the DMX out on my master light. Then I'm going to plug the other end into the DMX in on my slave light. And if we wanted to set up more lights, we can take another DMX cable, plug it into the DMX out of our slave light, into the DMX in on our next light, and so on. So now if I grab my remote and select a color, you'll see that both lights are affected. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your Best-Strip 60 RGBWA+UV wash light bar with wireless DMX. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.